John Hart, with all the different roles you've played, Jack Armstrong, Captain Africa, the Lone Ranger, Hawkeye, which makes you most instantly recognizable during that period of your career on the street, the man in the street?
Well, for a brief period of time, people remembered Hawkeye, and remembered me as Hawkeye. Now the name, the Lone Ranger, is such a common, well-known name. I don't think they connect me especially with it unless they know that. But everybody remembers the Lone Ranger. I live out in a retirement community, and I've been there for almost 5 years. There's all these people out there. All they know I was the Lone Ranger.
What happened to Tonto?
Tonto passed away quite some time ago. Yeah, with a stroke. It was very sad, really. It was a big thing.
Well, he was up there in age, too, wasn't he? I think
No, 62 when he does it.
About
Jay Super.
the same as me. He died, must have died 10 years ago.
Mr. Hart, will you have a Jay Superhero story for us, something amusing on the set, or his off-screen personality?
Well, the Lone Ranger, every episode was made in 2 days, and the scripts were a lot longer, so it was just a continual fight to learn all the dialogue. I'd get up at 5 every morning with coffee and start going on these page after page. And Tonto, a typical scene would be, we would be out on the rock somewhere, it'd be 4 or 5 irate villages or farmers or people like that, and oh my God, the guys are robbing the stage and blew up the bank and they're running down the widow's farm and just all this stuff. And I'd talk and they'd leave us there. And Tonto would say, what do we do now, Kimo-sabe? And I'd say, well, I get the share of the net, and I'd talk for another page. Then he'd go over, and Scout was a very small horse, and he was an athlete. He'd jump up there, and he'd say, he'd go, get him up, Scout, and he'd go. Then he'd sit in his dressing room, and he used to keep scotch in a thermos bottle. And I'm out there with all these actors bleeding, trying to do all this stuff in 1 or 2 takes. He'd take his thermos bottle and go. I never would take a drink when I was working. When the day was done, I looked at him. But another story about Tonto. You must know we were very close friends, and we kidded each other mercilessly all the time. And for once, we had an episode with a gorgeous girl. You know, we had horses and old guys and sheriffs and just, you never had a pretty girl. Old ladies, old widows, it just went on and on. So this girl was like almost like a Lonnie Anderson. I mean, she was built, she was gorgeous, and the whole crew, everybody was up on their toes dancing around. It was a treat to have her. So we had a scene where she was supposed to meet us, and she doesn't show up, and we think maybe something's wrong. So Tonto and I tiptoe up the back stairs, and we go to this room and knock on the door. Now, in the meantime, there's a bad guy with a great big gun right at her head, and she comes to the door, and I said, well, what happened? And she's going like this all the time. Trying to tell him. So I finally said, okay, as soon as I get rid of the Indian, I'll be back. Tonto laughed. That's not the only funny thing that happened on all the rest.
Another question, please? Yes. Yes, Donna.
John, can you tell us a story about how you used your wife's name in Canada?
How he used his wife's name?
Yeah. Well, when I made Hawkeye in Canada and had to join the Hawkeye Artists and Actors Union, whatever it was, and then we had to go back about a year later, 6 months later, and the same bunch of guys that directed were making a little feature, a Western feature, and they had a nice part of me, the lead heavy, and I couldn't get cleared with the Actors Union, but my wife was a member of the Actors Union. So the credit came out, Burl Braithwaite was my name. Oh, and there's one funny thing that happened in that picture. All these Canadian actors out of Toronto, man, they don't know from anything about horses, really. It's pretty sad. And Austin Willis, the guy that was the lead heavy, and I was his number one Hinchey, we had to ride down this long road and turn into this ranch. We're coming to do something evil. And this guy could never get the horse going. And after about 3 takes, I said, we'll go this time. So I had a lariat with a big knot in the end, and I got behind him, and I just whacked that horse all the way down the road. And he's going like this, and Austin goes, what are you doing? What are you doing? But it was a long shot, and I got the tape real good. I got him down the hill.
Another question, please. All right, well, you're thinking of one. Mr. Reeves, you appear with many beautiful women in your films. Did any of them attain a status higher than the normal leading lady in their own careers?
Well, it was this Bertolisi. She did Ramos and Remus, much as the Duel of the Titan, the Gordon and myself. And for some reason, the Italians thought that she was bad luck. You know, they didn't want to use her. She was a very beautiful woman. She looked, to me, like Michelle Pfeiffer, only better. And they didn't want to use her. We used her in the picture. And from then on, she did pictures with people like Jack Lemmon and Tony Curtis and people like that, so it really launched her career. The bad luck was broken with me. And Christine Kaufman, who was my leading lady in The Last Days of Bombay, she went on to do pictures with Kirk Douglas, and she married Tony Curtis, so that was pretty good luck for them.
Miss Lisi, is she the attractive one with the mold?
Yes.
Yes, very attractive.
Like I said, she looks very much like Michelle Pfeiffer does now.
That lucky lady.
Oh, she was gorgeous.
Another question, please. All right, while you're thinking of one. Mr. Scott, one of my favorite Tarzan films was Tarzan's Greatest Adventure, in which you had a savage hand-to-hand combat with Anthony Quayle at the end. Can you go into some detail upon how that was filmed?
Yeah, the entire film was shot in Africa, and it was really a tough location because they chose really some very rugged country. And we were there for, I guess, 3.5 months. And about 3 weeks of that time was getting from one location to another. And the cast was very good. Anthony Quayle, Sean Connery, Al Mueller, I can't think of it. Wonderful English actor. But anyway, it was a marvelous casting. And but the locations were really difficult. We shot in the Serengeti Plain, and we shot in the northern frontier, Kenya and Ethiopia. We went to the Belgian Congo, which is now Zaire. And we shot, I think, 2.5 weeks in the Rwenzori, which is where they're having that trouble now in Burundi. But really beautiful country. Now, what you were referring to, the last location, we saved it until last. It was about a 120-foot cliff. And the idea was Tarzan character would climb up and engage the character Anthony Quayle played. And we were fighting all day on this. It took us 4 days to shoot it. It was that dangerous because the more we sweated and everything, it got wet. And there was a quiet incline off of the cliff coming down, and we kept slipping. So they had, in the last shot, they had to put airplane cable on me because my back was toward the cliff. And it really got dicey, and I had to do the whole scene with this kind of a noose around my neck, a wire noose. And we were trying to help each other, like, keep our balance, but yet make it look good for the camera. And we finally got the shot, but it took 4 full days to do something that lasted maybe a minute and a half on the screen.
It certainly was a thrilling sequence.
Yeah, it was. But it's a marvelous film too. I'm sorry they didn't have it down here for you people to see. You may have seen it, but it was really a great film.
Thank you. Another question, if you please. Yes, sir.
I was just wondering if Steve could talk about, also Gordon, about the difference between making films in the U.S. and making films in Europe.
Comparing films made in the U.S. as opposed to Europe.
I would say the biggest difference is there's a discipline and a sound. For instance, in the States here, they say silence, and there's silence on the set. And if somebody makes a noise, they'll shoot it over. Where in Europe, if an airplane goes over, or a motorcycle goes by, or whatever happens, they shoot it anyway, because they're going to dub it in the end. Because usually in the scene, there are people speaking at least 2 to 3 different languages. I've been in scenes where I was speaking English, the person on my left was speaking Italian, to my right was speaking Spanish, across Yugoslav, and the other Serb, and the other French. So it's very difficult. And to be a good actor, you have to be a good reactor. You have to be very interested in what the other actors are doing and saying. Well, I had to be in that scene for sure, because I couldn't understand all those languages. So when one person would go like this, I know it's my time for a certain line, but the other person would go, I was my turn for another line, etc. So that makes it very difficult. So what they do at the end of the film, if the film is for the United States or Spain or whatever, they will fly the film with the script to New York City and hire maybe 6, 8, what they need, radio actors, and each of them plays a part. That way they get the film done.
Yeah, it's true that the thing I didn't really care too much about filming there was the kind of the casual attitude on the set all the time. I mean, it wasn't that, any really set like we're doing a film and this is a very important, that sort of thing. It was kind of a, lackadaisical attitude about their art, and I could never get used to that. It was kind of a happenstance thing, and you really had to work to protect yourself in scenes, because I like the Italian people, but some of the actors, they didn't even walk in front of you when you're in a close-up. So it's something that I could never tolerate.
Thank you. John Hart, do I recall correctly that you made a guest appearance at The Lone Ranger on Happy Days? Was that the film? A TV show?
Yeah.
Would you discuss that with us, please?
Well, it wasn't a happy day for me. I hated it. They called me. I come in. It was Fonzie's birthday, and as a present, they get the Lone Ranger to come into this little coffee shop where they all hang out. And I hadn't done a live show in a long time. I used to do the skeleton show and a lot of live show, and it's a whole, you got a one-shot deal. This is before an audience. So they got me over there at 2 o'clock in the afternoon with a full makeup suit, and I sat there. I shot the scene like at 11:30 that night. By then I was damn mad. Finally, she said, "Are you all right?" So I lost my patience a little bit with that, but it was nice, and he was a very nice young man, very intelligent. And I had an actual silver bullet at that time, and I gave one to him, and he loved it. So that was my experience, nothing much really.
Thank you, John. May we have another question? Yes, sir.
Mr. Reeves, how did you make the transition from being a bodybuilder to movies?
How do we make the transition?
I mean, did you think that it was one shot that you made a movie star? Or...
Well, I'll tell you a nice long story.
Right.
When I was 17, I was working up in Oakland, California, going to high school for half a day, and working for half a day because it was during World War II. So I go to school from 8 to 12, walk to work, and while I eat my lunch, I start learning my power walking. And then work from 1 till 5, loading boxcars and trucks for the U.S. Army. Then I take a bus and go to the gym, work out for a couple hours, 3 times a week. Anyway, when I was 17, it was summer, and one of the guys working with me said, it's time for vacation. We have 2 weeks off. Let's go down to my aunt's place in Hollywood. And I said, okay. So we took a bus down there to Hollywood, and at the time, when we were 17, we didn't have a car or anything. So there was a tram that went from Hollywood to the beach in Santa Monica. So on this tram, when I was 17, I'd go there, and they would say, are you a movie star? I said, no, I'm not. Then I go to the beach, and Muscle Beach was quite famous at the time. All the weightlifters were there, the bodybuilders, the gymnasts, the wrestlers. Every wrestler there wanted to make me a wrestler, put me in show business.